Welcome to Talking Giants player profiles and projections. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And today we are looking at New York Giants wide receiver Jalin Hyatt out of Tennessee. Was the 73rd pick in the third round. The Giants traded up 16 spots with their fourth round pick to go up and get Jalin Hyatt. They would have been willing to take him in the second round if John Michael Schmitz was not there. 6 foot, 176 pounds. Justin, this guy is fast and he changes what the Giants can do on offense.
Yes, 100%. I think the main priority of the Giants this year, I think from coaching staff to management, they understand that they need to become more explosive this year. And man, does Jalin Hyatt kind of provide that. One of the things that I said about Jalin Hyatt, coming into this year and after we drafted him, the more that you talk about Tennessee's offense not being real, well, if you want to call Tennessee's offense a track meet, Jalin Hyatt was the track star in that offense. And man, I'm excited to see him, even in year one, his role with the Giants and being an explosive play target.
He had, in 12 games last year, over 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 19 yards per catch on a 75.2% catch rate. He won the wide receiver of the year award for college football last year. Justin, to me, he's a slender wide receiver, but he did get most of his production by simply just running past defenses. Like, it's wild to see, and that speed translates to the NFL. Now, it allows him to uncover deep, whether it's on verticals or posts or whatever. It allows him, whether it's on a crosser, those speed type routes. It allows him to uncover. But he does need to, get used to not playing 8 yards, 10 yards off guys' coverage. Like, he needs to get used to playing press man coverage. He needs to know how to, get open in the quick game through route running and sell. So there is a lot that needs to be added to this game, but I do see a very important role for him in year one, though, too.
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly areas of Jalin Hyatt's game that you got to highlight to say that can get better, but also what he did at Tennessee was crazy considering you knew what that offense was trying to accomplish. You know that when Jalin Hyatt is going to be throwing the ball, odds are it's going to be deep down the field. And I feel like the whole point of corners playing off coverage, Bobby, is just to not allow the wide receivers to get behind you. That's pretty much the point, right? When you play off coverage. Yet he would just blow by guys all the time, like you said. A 75% catch rate with an average depth of target of 14 is crazy, and averaging 7.3 yards after the catch per reception. Those numbers are so crazy that it's like not real life for Jalin Hyatt.
Yeah, so now let's talk about the offense he played in. Like, it's wide splits, it's a limited route tree, and it's free releases. And those are the things that I think are going to give him issues playing in the NFL to start, right? Like, I think when he's dealing with physicality, he doesn't separate great. Now, his saving grace in that is that he does have great hands and he catches the ball away from his body, which I think is gonna help him get playing time in the meantime, Justin, because he's not this just deep threat body catcher, right? Who can't run routes. Like, he's working on his route running, and there's enough speed and ability there to get some separation, but also, like, he'll catch the ball in tough spots. And I think that's going to help him get by while he improves as a route runner. But getting deep, like, it's not simply just the speed. Like, he knows how to, hey, I'm going to open up this DB's hips and subtly just break off of it. And it also allows him to get in a chunk plays in the intermediate game, whether it's through a post or a dig or a corner route. One of his best routes is a curl route. And it's not necessarily just a true curl, but it's an option route where it's like, hey, if they're playing off and then you realize you're not getting past this guy, turn it into a curl route. We saw the Giants even do that a little bit in training camp with him. But that's if there was a route that he got more production on after the go ball, it is on those curl routes. So there is some stuff in his route running that is good now, but it's just, there's physicality that needs to be added, right?
Yeah.
Like when he's dealing with press, it's not necessarily like he can't get off the line of scrimmage. It's he has a hard time getting disconnected, like before getting to the stem of the route on a dig route or an in or a slant or routes like that. It's kind of letting that guy stay in a trail position in your hip, and then if you're on the inside of him, well, he knows you're gonna have to break inside. If you're on the outside, so kind of telegraphing it in that way. That's where I think Jalin Hyatt really needs to improve, is on that quick game type of stuff. Because if you can get him to be a solid quick game route runner, I mean, the sky is the limit for Hyatt.
The sky is the limit for sure, for sure. But Tennessee's offense didn't do a ton of that, and that is like the critique. We know how light he is. We've seen it in camp. Like, he is really light, and I feel like especially, hey, you become victim to now wearing a number in the 80s where it's like, you maybe look a little bigger if you wear a number in the 80s versus in college you wore number 11, where like he is pretty thin and he is pretty small. So him dealing with press,
moved around a bit.
Him dealing with press and him dealing with some physical corners like year one in the NFL, that's something to like definitely keep an eye on. But, what he did best is, again, another stat about him catching the ball deep down the field, 58.3% success rate on targets, 20 plus yards. Last year, that's ranked number one in FBS in 2022. You mentioned how he, I even have a note of angling vertical routes well to help you blow past off coverage.
Yeah.
His role this year for the Giants, I know you just talked about it, but crossers, go routes, drags, number 2 option to kind of stretch the field, the guy with yak potential, and then even him, I'm glad to hear like you saying that him running those curl routes really well, because that is something that the Giants did run, especially on third down, like deep curls. Them running deep curls on third down, like think back to like Richie James against Washington on that big fourth down. I feel like that was a curl route, and if Jalin Hyatt can kind of serve that, be versatile in how he catches the ball, maybe a little bit more than we're giving him credit for this year, I consider that to be a win of a rookie year.
Yeah, and those option, like that's something, if I was Daniel Jones, that's what I would be working on with Jalin Hyatt. Is like let's talk through and those option curl routes, because it's like, hey, you have the speed to where I want to throw you the ball, but I'm not going to throw you the ball deep when you're stopping, and I'm not going to throw your ball as a curl when you're actually going to go deep. And it's like, let's make sure we get on the same page with that stuff, because that's something that could be deadly on third down for the Giants. Or it's like if they're playing off and you're able to get those hips open, the curl route is like one of the best like third and long plays to run. I know because of Jason Garrett, like the word curl route makes you cringe, but it does have a lot of use in the game of football, especially when you have the personnel of guys like Jalin Hyatt. But yeah, I do see him having like a limited but important role year one, because there's just a lot of stuff that needs to be like with the physicality. I think he gears down too much to make sharp breaks, but he does have good bursts out of them, but there's just too much slowdown that lets guys get back into the catch space. And there's routes where it's just, they're very rounded and they'll float into the coverage at times. So, but that speed, those hands are going to allow him to be a threat on this team. Yep. I don't know exactly. I can't give you a full over-under on numbers. We put it at 400 for our over-unders episode, but I do think it's going to be right around that number.
Yeah. Gabe Davis's name was said a few times by Brian Dable and Joe Shane after they drafted Hyatt during like those post-draft pressers. Obviously, there's a coaching connection there, but do you feel like there's a player similarity too? And can that kind of be like a projection for Jalin Hyatt a bit, or is that a stretch?
Well, I think there's a difference. Like Gabe Davis had a different role than Jalin Hyatt in that Tennessee, Josh Heupel offense that they ran. Obviously he came over from UCF to go to Tennessee. But yes, as far as like the deep threat that Gabe Davis is. And Gabe Davis has like a lot of flaws to his game too, but he's very effective within that offense. So yes, I do see some of that. He's not the big-bodied guy that Gabe Davis is going to be, but those post routes, like the Mills concept, like there's going to be plays that the Giants really didn't have in their playbook that I think will be with the addition of Jalin Hyatt.
Love it.
Even if protection isn't great, I think there will be there.
I have a question for you. Do you remember what team did I say when we were doing our pre-draft work on Jalin Hyatt? We talked about him on our wide receiver draft preview pod. What team did I say that I wanted to see Jalin Hyatt go to? Do you remember this?
The Chiefs?
The Chiefs. And it's because I wanted to see Mahomes' arm with Hyatt's legs. And I just wanted to see kind of Andy Reid get his hands on him and just like, hey, I don't know if you're going to be good in the NFL, but let's just see if you're going to work and you're going to be effective in a certain role, Kansas City is at least going to make you effective in a way that you can be effective. And lo and behold, Mike Kafka, formerly with the Chiefs, and Giants need speed, Giants need explosivity. And we got him. We got Jalin Hyatt.
That's a bad omen because all Giants receivers turn to Chiefs receivers. Kadarius Toney, Richie James, John Ross.
This is
all
true.
Fast Giants receivers turn into Chiefs receivers eventually. All right, Justin, why don't you talk to us about Manscaped before we get to our next rookie we're going to talk about?
Wasn't even ready to talk about Manscaped, but Manscaped is always ready, and they always got me covered with the Platinum Package 4.0. Also, shout out to Manscaped. Shout out to Manscaped because they just sent us a new product, the Handyman Compact Face Shaver. I'm really excited for this. I've gone all my life. I don't really grow a lot of facial hair, but I've literally gone all my life. I've never had an electric razor before. So now I've just I literally just shave like every couple days, but now it's just I can just zzz with the electric razor because the Handyman Manscaped provided it to me. So thank you to Manscaped. And if you go to manscaped.com and at checkout, you can get 20% off plus free shipping when you use promo code GIANTS. That's 20% off and free shipping with code GIANTS at manscaped.com. When you use the code GIANTS, use the Platinum Package because the gold standard is no longer good enough. Thank you to Manscaped. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
You will be glad you did. Next on this list, this was a late add to the player profile series because we didn't expect to have him on. He replaces a different corner, and this corner is Tre Hawkins, a 6th-round pick, cornerback out of Old Dominion. 6'2", 188 pounds, 32 and an eighth inch arms, and ran a 4.4 40, a 37.5-inch vertical jump. Justin, this guy is an NFL athlete, right? And I went back and I looked at my draft notes after we drafted him, and one of the bullet points I had was he is what people said Corey Trice was. That's who Tre Hawkins is, where it's like there's some things that need to be refined, but he has all the speed and athleticism to play in the game and the ability to move and change direction. And one of the other notes is like, I don't know if this guy's going to be good, but he sure as hell is fun. Well, he's been damn near the freaking player of Giants. Like, there's been no player that's raised their stock from Giants training camp than Tre Hawkins. He's a big, long, yoked up athlete who can move around well. He's got good speed that allows him to carry the vertical with anybody, change the directions very quickly with smooth hips. He's got all the stuff. We're going to talk about some stuff that he needs to improve, and we saw a little bit of that flash in the preseason and some training camp practice versus the Detroit Lions. But for a 6th-round pick, this dude has every ability to be a really good corner in the NFL. Where there's 6th-round pick, like most 6th-round corners, you can make an argument for them to like, hey, this is how he makes it on a roster as a depth piece. Most 6th-round corners cannot say what you can say about Tre Hawkins with his ability in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I am dangerously optimistic on like the trajectory of Tre Hawkins' career, and it doesn't even really have anything much to do with camp. It does because he's come out here with the first team, but everything that we've seen in camp has matched what we saw at Old Dominion, Bobby, where, he's young, he's athletic, he has long arms, he's physical, he's fast. Tre Hawkins wants to eat you for breakfast and then take your lunch money too. Like that's what he wants to do, and that's the competitive spirit that he's come out here and he's played with during camp, and it's been so fun. And I think it was you at one point a couple weeks ago, just kind of flat out just said, this is what good teams do. They find diamonds in the rough in the 6th round. Like, this is just because we're Giants fans and we shouldn't, we have bad drafts and we shouldn't get excited about 5th, 6th round picks. If the guy's good and he's coming out here and he's playing good, he should play and we should get excited about him, right?
Yeah, and I think it's at least you have the type of athlete who can turn into that. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee Hawkins is going to turn into that because there's a lot of negatives to, like, there's a reason he went to the 6th round, and it wasn't just because he went to Old Dominion. There is some negatives to his games that we'll go through. But the speed, the size, and the physicality is just like a perfect fit for what this defense wants to do. And to me, I feel like he is really like smooth, or really fast, like transitioning into like in phase with the guy. And
Yeah.
I think he's even gotten better at that since Old Dominion and his time coming in the camp. Like he's physical and press, even though he didn't have a ton of reps at Old Dominion, but he gets hands on you and he transitions to in phase and he's there with you. Whether you're working like if you like, he's gonna force you out to the sideline. He just limits what receivers can do a lot of the times. Now there is negatives to this game that we'll talk about, but it's just that speed, the size, the physicality. There's dominant reps. There's reps where he just flat out dominates the guy ahead of him and mugs them, and I think that's something worth working with.
He sticks to receivers. That was the main thing from Old Dominion, is that he sticks to guys. There's a question of at the catch point, and that's part of the negatives that I know you're going to talk about, but he's sticky to receivers. Like he sometimes can look a little stiff, but he's a good athlete. He's a sticky corner, and that's like what you want out of your cornerbacks is you want them to cover well. And Tre Hawkins does that.
Let's talk about the negatives with Tre Hawkins, though. His anticipation from off man is lacking, even though he is like eager to get out his back pedal and he's got good bursts out of it. It's just but needs to be better anticipation from off man coverage. Physical at this stem of the route too, but also can turn into grabbiness, right? Which at camp you're not really looking for penalties a ton, especially in one-on-ones and stuff.
I will say his penalties did drop from 6 in 2021 to only 1 in 2022. But I would agree that just for being a physical corner, like him being grabby is a somewhat of a concern in the NFL level.
Yeah. So he has good recovery speed, but a lot of times he's having to use it because there's times where he mistimes his punch, he's left lunging, and he's just behind on the play. And again, NFL wide receivers will make you pay for that type of stuff. And this is the one that is a little worrisome, is there's just down the field, there's bad ball skills that lead to big plays where there's good coverage by Tre Hawkins, but like receivers, and this is playing against like Coastal Carolina and shit, and he's giving up big plays against, middle of the road college wide receivers, even though he's in good position. He just needs to be better, like making plays on the ball downfield.
Yeah, that's the biggest concern. Make a play on the football, interception, allowing contested catches for sure.
And there was like even times at joint practices where we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown where it's like, okay, some good coverage, and Amon-Ra St. Brown was able to go up and turn his body and make a play.
We saw Paris Campbell have pretty good coverage on Paris Campbell, but DJ just puts it in the spot where Hawkins has got to be able to make a play on the football, and he hasn't so far.
Justin, do you think he's going to start games? Do you think he's starting week 1?
Do I think he start? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think
so do I, which is crazy to go from a 6th-round pick out of Old Dominion where it's like this guy needs time to grow, but he's got all the ability in the world, to a few days in the camp being like, man, this guy's like really excelling, but like it's a 6th-round pick, to now where it's like I'd be surprised if he's not starting week 1. Like he only gets first-team reps in Giants practices.
Yeah.
Solely. He has not taken, I think he's maybe taken 1 second-team rep in the last, since the first few days of camp.
And he's earned it at least in Giants camp. That's the flat out. And I know we try not to talk too much about camp on PPPs, but
when it's a 6th-round rookie corner, you kind of have to.
He's earned it. He's earned it in Giants camp. Now I think he will. I think he will struggle. Rookie corners do struggle, and we even talk about his compadre and his partner on the other side of the field, Deonte Banks, as a 1st-round pick, and how he was the 24th pick in the draft, ideally the 24th best player in the draft, where he was drafted, and we're talking about how he's going to struggle. Tre Hawkins is a day 3 6th rounder, so he is inevitably, you just feel like he's going to struggle. But man, I'm still waiting for like that play where I'm, whether it's in camp or whether it's in preseason in an actual game, I'm still waiting for that play to be like, man, the hype train for Tre Hawkins maybe starting to die down a little bit. That play hasn't come yet for me. Hasn't come yet.
Yeah, I do. Now, here's the thing: is all this excitement to start and stuff is, like you said, I think the excitement might wear off. Because I don't know if he's ready. I don't think he's ready. I to be honest, I do not think he's ready to face outside wide receivers in the NFL consistently. And the plan for him was never to be ready to go do that week one, right? It was to be like, hey, this guy's a perfect special teams player because of his size and athleticism and his aggressiveness, and let him develop as a backup. But now he's being put in a starter role, and I just hope that doesn't stunt growth. You know what I mean?
Right. No, for sure. Because corners, they need confidence. And, I mean, bottom line, if Tre Hawkins goes out there and he plays well, Tre Hawkins will be a confident football player and he'll be confident in his abilities. If Tre Hawkins struggles at the beginning and is playing like a 6th-round rookie that maybe needs some time to develop, then it will, may stunt his growth a little bit and he'll need to develop confidence. But
what do you do if you're the coaching staff, if he does struggle, like really struggling? Do you put him on the bench?
That's a conversation that kind of needs to be had between management and coaching about not. There is like a question, and this is outside of a Tre Hawkins conversation. Are we starting Tre Hawkins and like putting like a Dory Jackson in the slot because we don't like the other options that we have, or do we genuinely feel like this is just the best lineup that we have? I hope Tre Hawkins isn't a victim of the Giants not being able to find a slot corner.
I agree. I hope so too, because I listen. I want to see him play, but I also don't want to rush him either.
Right. But I'm still waiting for that moment, and it may come soon. I'm still waiting for that moment to be like, all right, I'm gonna take a breath on Tre Hawkins, because even with the catch, he said, he had bad moments in the Lions preseason game, but even some of the catches that he's allowed still looks good, and he's still right there.
Yeah. All right, that's an episode. We will see you guys tomorrow with another player profile and projection. We appreciate you. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.